Hello, kindred spirits, and welcome back to Bits and Bob's Divination. My name is Caitlin, and today we are going to be exploring the sparks on their way in for you. So let's go ahead and dive right in. Alright, so welcome back, my beautiful kindred spirits, and anyone new who may be joining us here on the channel today. We are looking into the sparks on their way in for you, which is a very open-ended reading. Sometimes sparks can be really helpful and useful, and sometimes sparks can be kind of explosive and all over the place and hard to catch. And so we're going to see where those sparks are coming in for you for creativity, for artistry and art magic, but also looking into how it's just showing up in your life in general, outside of creativity. So we're going to be seeing that with 3 different piles here, which we're going to look at here in a moment. But I do want to just let you guys know, if you're interested in getting your own private and personal reading about anything that showed up here today, or about another question or situation on your mind, then definitely feel free to reach out for the snail mail readings that I do, where I send a letter to you in the mail. It is typewritten on a vintage typewriter from the 1970s. It's wax sealed closed for your eyes only on any question or query that's been on your mind. I put a lot of time, care, and energy into each of these readings, and I make sure to really meditate on the cards and the situation that you have at hand. So definitely feel free to reach out if that's something you're interested in. I can send more information to you, or if you want to see some of the information I already have out there down below through the description or through my Instagram with helpful and honest reviews, then feel free to check those out as well. But we're going to go ahead and look at the piles here. So we have 3 different piles for you to choose from here today. You can choose all of them or mix them up, but here for pile number 1, if you're feeling called to this one, it might be because of this piece of red jasper. So if you're feeling called to this red jasper, then pile 1 might be for you. Here for pile number 2 is this piece of very sparkly, shiny pyrite. So if you're feeling called to this one, then that's pile number 2. And last but not least here for pile number 3 is this piece of sunstone. So if you're feeling called to this piece of sunstone, then pile 3 may be for you. So before you start heading off to the timestamps, I like to invite you to take a deep and cleansing breath here with me for a moment, and in a moment, so that you can connect with each of the piles, connect with your own intuition, and to feel free to call in your own guides as we move through these readings. But let's go ahead and take that deep breath together here now. And as I mentioned earlier, there really are no rules to this. You can choose all 3 of the readings, you can take bits and pieces from each of them, you can jigsaw puzzle them together however you wish. There really are no rules, but the timestamps will be down below in the description alongside the chapter marks of this video for your convenience. And like I mentioned earlier, if you're interested in those snail mail readings or the other offerings that I provide, then feel free to check out my Instagram down below, where you can see more information on all of those in my highlights. So with that all said, we're going to go ahead and start here with pile number 1. Hello group 1, if you've decided to choose this piece of red jasper, then this is the pile for you, as we are going to be exploring a spark on its way into your life. Sparks can come in many different forms, so they could be really good sparks. It could be something that's really sparking something that would be beneficial to you in your life, and sometimes there's sparks that kind of get out of hand. And so we're going to see what kind of sparks are coming into your life, especially as we've been moving into Aries season and the very sparky nature that I feel like Aries has sort of generally within it. So we're going to be looking into this all with the charms, as well as the Art Magic Oracle and the Everyday Witch Tarot, which I'm very excited to pull out. I haven't pulled this one out since like October and September, so I'm very excited to have it back out here again. But as always, I'll have this all listed down below in the description in case you're curious to see what we're using here today. But we're going to get started first by seeing the context of these sparks, right? What is this spark on its way into you? Is it something you're sparking? Is it something that is an opportunity making its way to you? Is it something that's going to get out of hand? We're going to see. So feel free to really connect with the cards as always, and to use your own intuition. And let's see. So group 1 here. What sparks are finding their way to you? So you have the Tower. That is so funny because I've said this before. I always like to pull a couple of cards just to get the decks kind of like going and decide how I want to set up the reading, to make sure that, I have everything that I need. And the Tower kept popping out. So it's really funny. I had a feeling it was going to pop out again for you all. So we have the Tower alongside the Seven of Pentacles. And let's see what that final card is. So you also have the Queen of Swords. Interesting setup here because it's kind of got this like weird warm cool energy just generally going off the top of the reading. The Queen of Swords can come off very cold, even if they are right, even if they are very knowledgeable, as the Queen of Swords is. They're a very knowledgeable person. They bring great ideas to the table. They know what they need to bring to the table, and they are very skilled at what they do. They're very good at coming up with good ideas. But when they place down boundaries, or when they speak their truth, or when they speak out words, sometimes it can be very blunt. Sometimes it can be very honest and truthful to a point that like can feel a little harsh, or cold or distant. But then over on the other side, you got the Seven of Pentacles, which is a very warm feeling card, right? It's a card of things budding and growing, because the Seven of Pentacles is usually a card talking about needing to be patient and wait things out, because as you can see, they've got like these crops growing in the background, and it's making sure that you don't overwater them or overwatch them or try to make them grow faster than they are ready to. And it's just waiting in the time that it takes for something to grow, giving something the room to grow. And so when you have these two things next to each other alongside the Tower, like I said, it just feels like there's this hot, cold energy to this spark that you have, almost like a spark that's very cool and a spark that's very warm. So it's telling me there's almost two different sparks coming into your life versus one, and that they're going to come from a Tower moment. So the Tower moment is basically representing something that's going to be very unexpected, a very big unexpected change that's going to rock you up from a foundational level. This could be something that's happening more societally, or something that's happening more on a big grander scale than just individually in your own life, although it can be. But it's usually really big picture things, right? The overarching themes within your life, right? Career, society, your home life, right? It's not usually small little nitpicky things that we think about on the everyday. So when I'm looking at this Tower, it's telling me that there's something in your life, or on that overarching scale, that is being stripped down to a foundational level, something that's having to be rebuilt, because what it really showcases here is that whatever was there was not stable enough to, withstand this blast, withstand the change that has come to it. And so it really is telling me that there's something in your life that's going to show up, that's going to feel like it's going to rock you to a foundational level. It could even be, like, I hadn't even mentioned this, but it could be something from an sort of identity level as well, right? Like changing your own, how you feel and view yourself, or view your identity, or view a piece of yourself that may be changing from a foundational level as well, so you can rebuild stronger. And so what you're going to be rebuilding with are these two new sparks. The Queen of Swords feels like an ally, like a new ally that's showing up in your life. It doesn't feel like you, although it could be, right? You could be working on a skill, you could be working on some new idea that does have that cold energy to it that I was talking about earlier, where maybe you can get a bit of tunnel vision, or you're really working hard on it, that like other people, it's hard to like socialize or be with other people because you're just so laser focused on some new skill or hobby or idea that you're working on. But like I said, it also could be an ally, someone who's coming in to give you some resources, to mentor you, someone who has more experience that you can look up to, especially someone who's really good also, not only with ideas and skills, but with their words, how they communicate, how they share ideas, how their voice comes, not just like their literal voice, but like how they voice things, is maybe how you're wanting to rebuild. Maybe there's something where you're looking towards a leader, or looking towards a mentor, or someone who can help you in this rebuilding process. The Seven of Pentacles shows another side of that spark, right? And the Seven of Pentacles has more of that warm energy, that patient energy, and it also represents something that's going to take a lot of time, right? To rebuild takes a lot of time. And so I really think this also represents being gentle with yourself and trying not to push yourself too hard, especially with that cold energy or that energy of like needing to be someone who is going to be helping you is going to be very blunt. They're not going to sugarcoat things or make things seem really easy or like it's going to be a simple fix to kind of fix this tower back up. But it is going to show that it's going to take a lot of time, hard work, and energy, but it's not going to take, like, you got to take it each increment at a time, each seed at a time, each brick at a time, and not try to overwhelm yourself with that. So those are like the two sparks that I'm seeing here that are coming forward, a spark of either you or someone else bringing forth that mentoring, learning, skill building, leader energy, but also to take things one day at a time and try not to get ahead of yourself too quickly or try to make things happen too quickly or be too hard on yourself or harsh on yourself when it comes to rebuilding after a really big change has kind of brought you down to that ground level to rebuild again. So we're going to pivot and move to an art magic card here. These are obviously going to have very much a magical and creative, like fine art kind of feel to them, but feel free to abstract these with me and see what we get from them. I was feeling the creative energy of this because of the spark nature, but we'll see what comes forward. So feel free to send your energy in and we'll pull one of these for you. Okay, so you got actually one of the element cards. So there's lots of different cards in here, but then you have specific ones that are related to the elements. And the element that is coming forward for you is Earth, which definitely makes sense, as Earth has a lot to do with that rebuild, hardworking energy, that also very slow growth, right? If you think of the Earth, right, the Earth did not form in one day. Like, it had to go through many years of formation and is still continuing to change every day. So if we're looking at that, that's kind of the feeling that is coming forward, but feel free to read this on your own, but we'll read through it as well and see how you can maybe use this earthly element to rebuild. This can be, again, specifically for art magic if that's something you guys are into, but you're welcome to abstract these ideas or use them as keywords and things like that that could be useful to you. So it says here, unlock the element of earth, the body, nourishment, resources, and fertility. The qualities of this element are growth, stability, abundance, sensuality, luxury, beauty, comfort, sustenance, protection, grounding, and manifestation. The expressions of the earth element are plant life, ground-dwelling creatures, mountains, crystals, stones, salts, roots, forests, canyons, caves, gardens, homes, feasting gnomes in the fae. If you're doing art magic, things to help unlock the earth element are clay, stone, wood, seeds, leather, cement, mud, chalk, coins, edible supplies, egg tempera, bone, wheat paste, and natural pigments. And tools you might use with those are carving tools, pottery wheels, mortar and pestles, bone folders, and a trowel. So these are, like I said, they can be very specific to more of that art magic energy, but I felt really called to the word comfort here, as well as protection, almost like you're wanting to protect your comfort or protect the things that you're rebuilding for, right? It kind of makes me think of like the story of like the three little pigs and, right, the straw house and the stick house, and then the one that's best built with the brick. And so if we're looking at this, maybe you had a straw house before and you thought it was fine until the wind blew, and then you realized that it wasn't as strong as you had thought. And so that rebuilding nature is going to take a lot of time to learn new skills, find a new voice, find new ways in which to rebuild in a much stronger and more formidable and sort of protected place. So those are the things that were really coming up for me with that earth element, but you're welcome to see if there's other things that came forward for you. Let's go ahead and move on to some affirmations. I'm going to pull a couple of affirmations here for you. You might find that all of them connect, or you might find that there's just one or two of them that you're like, ooh, I want to write that down and use that as just like mini little sparks. But afterwards, we're going to be pulling some charms. So let's go ahead and pull these for you. Okay. Ooh, lots of sort of minty greens. Interesting that this one came up for you because it says even baby steps are steps forward. This also was one I recently did for the toppers of a pile, or like a specific reading. And the fact that that came forward and is showcasing it specifically not only for that Seven of Pentacles energy that I was talking about with taking it one day at a time, being patient, taking it one step at a time, not trying to get ahead of yourself. That's also being related to and specifically highlighting it on that rebuilding a tower. It does say don't waste a today with a tomorrow, which is also to showcase like it's still making sure to do baby steps every single day or finding small steps to do every single week to continue to rebuild, but also making sure that you don't like continue to, or rather that you do continue to keep building, because it's very easy to be like, well, I'll get to it tomorrow, or well, it'll fix itself tomorrow. And it's making sure that it also doesn't continue to just be a hole in the wall that continues to fester. You also have here on the unlock the element of earth, refresh your space. So it could be something with the earth element that could be useful like on a physical sense. It could literally be some housework that you're working on, literally building something in your yard, on your home, in your community, or other ways that is needing a refresh. It's going to need a complete redo. And that makes sense with everything we've had show up so far. And then it says each petal makes the flower as well. So that's very similar to taking like each step, each step forward, or what does it say? Even baby steps are steps forward. Each petal makes the flower is a similar sort of saying, but in this case it's talking about that like each step that you do is, as you look back at it, going to build that flower. So it's also making sure to look back at your progress, make sure that you're not forgetting all of the success that you've had as you continue to build, or realizing how each of your steps that you're moving forward, or recognizing the work and value towards each of those steps that you're building is making something beautiful, is making something new. It's also showcasing that again to that earth element. So it could be related to plant life or a garden as well. But we're going to go ahead and finish off with some charms and see what last little details they wish to share with us for those sparks on their way in for you. Okay, so I always love when the little cat bat shows up. I'm pretty sure it's just supposed to be a bat, but I always see it as a cat and a bat. So it tells me that it's two things that are mixed together that don't really normally mix, right? We don't really, I mean, sure, Halloween, you think of cats and bats together, but like they're very different things. So that's showing up over here next to each petal makes a flower. It's also showing up by the Queen of Swords. So it could be that someone who is coming to help you, to mentor you, is maybe someone who is unexpected, or someone who isn't someone you would have normally let into your space, or let you, or that you would normally look up to in some way. Or even if it is someone you would normally look up to, they may have new ideas that are kind of sparking you to see a very different perspective that is going to give you a much broader and more diverse perspective than you had previously. You also have over here on that Queen of Swords as well, the imagine, dream, and believe charms. This usually represents believing in yourself, or believing in a dream, believing in an idea. So it does also show that you're really putting your faith in someone. And then lastly, or not lastly, but on this last card here, you have the honor thy mother and thy father charm showing up here next to that Seven of Pentacles. So it could also be that the person that you're looking up to that's helping you to continue to build may be a guardian figure in your life, a mother, a father, or a guardian, but you could also see it as just, again, someone who's a leader, someone who you look up to, someone who is mentoring you with more experience. It doesn't have to be someone older than you. It doesn't have to be someone in your family, but it just represents that you're really honoring them by, putting forth this energy each day to continue to build. So it could also be someone you're honoring that's younger than you, that maybe has less experience, and that by you building, you're also building a future for them as well. So that's also showing up here too. And lastly, you have two different ones here with the letter A showing up here. So some of you might, it could talk about each step. A would be like the first step, right, in the alphabet. But you could also see it as, again, that there's just someone related to the letter A showing up here, or related to a project or what you're building that has A in it. And then you also have the taking the path less traveled charm. So it does also represent that what you are building, this new way that you're building, is going to be something that maybe in your community feels a little bit risky or uncertain, or something that feels like not the typical traveled path, right? You're going down a very different road. That doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing, or even that it even is more risky, but it can just represent that you're showcasing a new perspective or challenging a perspective in your area. So overall, those are all of the charms and cards that I have for you for your sparks on their way in. I really hope that this has been a useful and helpful reading, and if it was, definitely be sure to give this video a like and let me know your thoughts in the comments on what came forward here today. I'd love to hear, especially with that earth element, because it was kind of a wild card, and I'm curious to see what you guys kind of pulled from there. And if you're interested in more of these pick a card readings and you'd like to see more of the readings that I have on the channel, then definitely feel free to subscribe, as I put out new readings every single Monday that I think you'd really enjoy, as well as some educational videos sprinkled in there on art magic, my grimoire, as well as charm casting. So there's a lot to choose from already. And if you're interested in getting a snail mail reading, feel free to reach out, as I'd love to send a letter to you in the mail. It's typewritten on a vintage typewriter, and it is a very thoughtful reading, and a reading that I put a lot of care, time, and energy into for any question or query that is on your mind. So if that's something that intrigues you, feel free to reach out, and I would love to send more information your way. I also have more information down below and helpful and honest reviews over on my Instagram. So with that all said, I'm going to go ahead and close off this reading. Thank you so much for being here with me today, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye. Hello Group 2, if you've decided to choose this piece of sparkly pyrite, then this is the pile for you as we begin to explore the sparks on their way in for you. And these sparks may be ones that could be really useful and helpful to you, right? A spark to spark a fire, to spark a flame. Sometimes those fires and flames can get a little out of hand, so they could also be sparks that could be hindering you or pushing you in different directions than you expected. That's what's kind of the interesting portion of the idea of a spark. So I'm very curious to see where that spark is showing up for you all today. We're going to be doing that with the charms as always, and we're also going to be playing around with the Everyday Witch Tarot and the Art Magic Oracle deck. So there is going to be a bit of the art magic creativity element to this reading, but also we're going to abstract it, so we'll see what comes forward. As always, I'll have all of the decks and supplies listed down below in case you're curious. But we're going to start out with just pulling a few cards here to look into what these sparks are, the context of a spark on its way in for you. So definitely feel free to put your own intuition cap on and see what comes forward. As always, I always invite you guys to join in with me, and feel free to send your energy into the decks and supplies here to really connect with them. So here we go. Group 2. What sparks are igniting or on their way in for group 2? Okay, so you've got the Ten of Swords. Interesting that I wanted to put it upside down, so I'm almost going to do that. And then you also have the Page of Pentacles, and one more card here with the Four of Wands. Interesting. The Ten of Swords here in the center is the one that obviously is the most interesting of all of them, because everything that you've got going on surrounding it is very positive or more positive leaning. The Page of Pentacles over here is like flipping a coin. They're ready to go. They've got a map in front of them. They have this go-getter, ambitious energy that's going on here, and this like, I could do anything, not so much so that they're literally, they've got a map in front of them, and they could be following a map, keeping to the straight and narrow, and yet they're at a crossroads and they're just gonna flip a coin to see which way they're gonna go, right? There's this sort of risky and ambitious, determined nature to them, but also a bit of a like scamp nature to them as well, in that they really believe in themselves enough to make very on-the-fly decisions. And then also on top of that, you have the Four of Wands, which represents a very successful time in your life. It represents, maybe you don't have everything that's successful, maybe you don't have everything going for you, but recently you've had, or a spark is on its way in to have good success come towards you, especially for ideas and goals that you've been really working hard on, to be acknowledged for the value that you're bringing forward, right? They're celebrating and they're being like, yes, you did this thing, you got this far, look at what you've done. Maybe it's a project, maybe it's a goal, maybe it's a dream you're working towards, maybe it's something to do with like a personal celebration or life goal that you've been heading towards. But whatever it is, people are valuing you and seeing your success and recognizing the success in your life, as well as you recognizing that success. And through that success, I think you've got this spark in you to kind of be a little bit risky, that you're like, okay, well, I've got the success, I've got maybe a little extra money, or I've got a little extra energy, or I've got a little bit of extra time now, as I, can let this rest for a minute. And what can I do with that? What am I, maybe you're going to go on like a spark to suddenly want to go on a little weekend trip or get away, or maybe you want to make a little purchase that you've been looking at for a while. Maybe it's to hang out with someone you haven't seen in a while, and you're going to dial them up and call them or text them or whatever. And there's just this sort of like, ooh, I guess now that I'm feeling really successful and I'm on this high, what am I going to get out of it? But at the center of everything, you also have the Ten of Swords. And the Ten of Swords, when either way, really, it can showcase, as you can see, a very different scene. It represents someone who has basically kind of stabbed you in the back and ran away. But I also like to see this as sort of release energy, especially when it's this way and the swords are now falling out of your back, right? They're falling out, and yes, this is now in the past. Whatever happened is now in the past. A new sun is rising, and these swords are falling out. So it's telling me too that you've gone through quite a lot of strife, or a lot of strife is still happening surrounding these cards, but you're not like letting them hold you back from other goals and dreams and things that are going on in your life. There's also a sense of not feeling pinned down, right? If you look at this, you're literally being pinned down. And so to have it showcase these falling out tells me that either you've had a falling out with something that was not successful for you, was not bringing you joy, was not giving you what you needed, and by releasing them, by letting them go, by letting the situation move forward, by finding closure there and dropping these swords one by one from you, you're releasing yourself from being pinned down into a position that is just unhelpful or unuseful to you. It's not moving you forward, right? It's holding you back from being able to pick up the broom and fly. And so I really feel like this showcases an energy from the past that's moving away from you. The reason why you're feeling this like on the go, I could do anything, ambitious energy is because this energy is on its way out. You're ready to have the freedom that you're looking for again, to be able to fly again, to be able to do things literally on the fly again. And so I feel like that's where your spark, the heart of your spark really is coming from, is because of this situation that has occurred. And because of the newfound freedom that you found through healing from it, or from releasing yourself from it, you're also being able to find more success, be able to revel in more success, but also to be able to be a little bit spontaneous, to just try things out and be a bit more free-flowing with the way you approach your job, your career, your home life, your goals and your dreams, the ambitions that you have, or maybe it's just a Sunday afternoon and you want to flip a coin and see where it takes you. So there's a lot of different ways that this could go, but the spark is there to showcase a place of release, a place of recognition, and a place of spontaneity. So let's go ahead and see how that is translating into creativity for you. Like I said, we're going to pull these art magic cards. They're going to have more of that traditional art kind of energy to it, as well as more of the magical witchy side. But feel free to abstract these and look at them more for keywords if that's something you're not interested in. But let's see group 2 here for the sparks on their way in for group 2. Ooh, riding lunar waves. That's really interesting that comes forward because, like I said, you're in like a new phase, or you're like in a situation where now you're gaining this freedom. Something has shifted, and that shift is really coming from and can be related to the moon cycles. But I'll hold this up in case you want to read it yourself, but we'll read through it in a moment. But this also is showcasing, right, like this half moon, and specifically this is the letting go moon, the release moon of the last quarter moon, which is all about letting go, releasing something, letting something move forward, and the only way to move forward is by letting something go. And so it really is showcasing that for you with this, but it does say riding lunar waves. Says, ride the rhythms of the moon to enchant your creative efforts. Take cues from the lunar phase to cast art spells, gather materials, or arrange kismet collaborations. Pour energy into projects as the moon waxes, complete projects with the waning phase, or bathe in lunar beams at any time for giddy inspiration and unhinged revelations. I love that word, unhinged, because you're very unhinged over here. Very spontaneous, very just literally flying by the seat of your pants kind of vibe, right? You're just sort of seeing what happens and not being so rooted down as you are in this card. So I really feel like that's the reason why you have that. And just in general, the moon represents our emotions. It represents the waves, right? If you think of like the tides and how it connects to that water element. And so it really shows this fluidity that is coming forward that isn't so rigid for you. And I feel like that's where your spark is coming from, is this freedom to not be so rigid, to not be held down, to be spontaneous, to take a leap, to see what happens, and to not worry maybe so much about the success of what happens as well, and rather enjoy the moment of that spontaneity. I hadn't really thought about how those two connected in that way, but I really like how that's kind of translated with the help of this card, is that you're like riding those rhythms. You're not, it's not like you rode them and now we're talking about it in the past. Like, you're in the present moment, you're enjoying the waves as they come at you, versus worrying too much about being perfect or trying to find success or trying to be successful or being recognized, or making sure you don't make mistakes. It's about being very free-flowing and seeing what comes from that. So let's go ahead and pull you a couple of affirmation cards, and then we will pull some charms as well. I'm going to go ahead and see what you got for these. You might find that all of them hit for you, or it might just be one or two that you maybe needed to hear. But the first one showing up here upright is two sides to every coin. I know I spelled two incorrectly here, but I feel like it just adds to it with the two O's. But two sides to every coin. So there is, again, that showcasing of those two sides, and that idea of moving from the last quarter moon, which is all about maybe even wanting, if you work with the moon cycles, working with the quarter moons would be really useful and helpful to you. But the last quarter moon is all about, like I said, that release. But what you fill that release with on the other side is the first quarter moon, which is all about action. It's all about filling things up. It's about starting something new. It's about that ignition spark phase. So the fact that you have that showing up here as well is important. And the fact that it showed up here on Unhinged Revelations really makes a lot of sense. Over here on the Four of Wands, you have mind set is key. So this is about your mindset and how you approach the world, which could go the two ways that I was talking about, having the mindset to get to success, but also making sure that your mind isn't so focused on success and being fulfilled and successful that you actually end up kind of doing the opposite because you put too much pressure on yourself. You also have here, believe in yourself, which makes a lot of sense with that unhinged energy that I was talking about, of really having a lot of faith in yourself and having a lot of faith in your ability to be able to see what happens and know that you're going to be able to figure it out, whatever way it goes. Grow, evolve, and transform. That makes a lot of sense as well with the moon cycles, as they showcase another cycle, a new phase of our growth and our evolution. And then you also have life keeps on turning, so that also can showcase that sort of staying in the moment and staying in the present moment, because life is going to keep on turning. You're going to have mistakes happen still. You're going to have things that are going to fall to the wayside. You're going to have things that are going to move to the past. But being in that present moment is really important for this spark as it manifests for you. So let's finish off your reading with some charms and see what they have to say. So here we go, group 2. Okay, a lot showing up on those phases. So it could be that there are just a lot of phases you're going through, or a lot of things involved in these phases. You have the, don't mind the little eye on here, it got stuck, but you have the castle charm, or the rook charm in chess. And if you know anything about chess, this is the forward moving charm. It moves forward and it moves backwards, but it is all about forward movement. That's how I tend to see it. And so that was showing over here at that life keeps on turning, and the fact that you had yourself stuck in the past for so long. It's really nice to see a lot of forward movement coming forward for you, especially since it came up next to the mangled charm. This usually represents something that feels manipulative with whatever situation you are going through, or it can represent just a really difficult situation. It can represent the tower at times too, of something that needs to be rebuilt. So when I'm looking at those, it's showcasing to me that, again, you're really going through a new phase, a new life phase, a new transformation that's allowing you to move forward, versus being kind of stuck to this mangled past piece. You also have the sort of Mickey charm. I see this one as like magic in some way. So some of you are truly using the magic of the moon. Like I said, with those quarter moons, I think that would be really useful to you guys. And then you also have the community charm, which represents, like I was talking about earlier, there's a bit of a community element to this, in that you're being recognized for your success. But it can also represent, over here, falling on the moon, that you are maybe working with a witchy community, or with someone who also understands the moon phases and works with the moon phases in your life, and maybe you could work together with them. You have growth coming forward here in another charm. This represents, it always just makes me think of summer. So it could also be something that you're working towards for summer, or there could be a lot of power for you, or where this spark is going to show up most for you is in summer. I love that over here, as well as your last charm, is the number 1, which tells me too that you're looking after yourself. If you had the situation in the past that really put you in a situation where you were looking towards this person, or looking up to this person running away from you who backstabbed you in some way, or put you in a position where you felt like you lost freedom, you're looking after yourself now. You're number 1. And so I really like that that's showing up here with believe in yourself, over here with the scrappy nature of this page. And you also have looking after yourself as the number 1 here. So really beautiful charms to have come forward, and beautiful reading. I hope that this has been useful and helpful to you in navigating any sparks or creativity on its way in for you. Feel free to give this video a like if you did find it useful and helpful, and let me know in the comments down below what you saw, because there might be something that I didn't pick up on that you really did, and I'm always curious to hear your thoughts. And if you're interested in more pick a card readings like this one, I do new readings every single Monday on this channel, if that's something you're interested in. And if you're interested in more pick a card readings like this one on the channel, then definitely feel free to subscribe, as I put out new readings every single Monday. And I also have videos on charm casting and art magic and the like. So if that's something you're interested in as well, sprinkled in between, then another reason to subscribe. If you want to support the channel as well as support yourself through getting a private snail mail reading, then feel free to reach out as I can send more information your way on those. And there's lots of helpful and honest reviews on my Instagram down below. But basically, I send a letter to you in the mail. It's typewritten on a vintage typewriter from the 1970s, wax sealed closed for your eyes only, on any question or query that's on your mind that I can really dive into and get into the nitty-gritty for you specifically. So if that's something you're interested in to help the channel as well as yourself, then feel free to email me or message me and I can send more information your way. But with that all said, I'm going to go ahead and close off this reading. Thank you so much for hanging out here with me today on the channel. It really does mean a lot, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye. Hello group 3, if you've decided to choose this piece of sunstone, then this is the pile for you, as we are going to be navigating the sparks on their way in for you. These could be really beneficial sparks, and they could be really beneficial sparks in that they would really spark something good, really build a healthy fire in your life, or they could be sparks that get a little out of control, that can go in very interesting, windy directions. So I'm very curious to see which sparks come forward for you, and if you have more of a mix here, as some of the other piles have thus far. We're going to be using the charms here, as well as the Art Magic Oracle and the Everyday Witch Tarot, which will have all of this, as always, listed down below in the description in case you're curious what I'm using here today. And we're also going to be using the watercolor affirmations, which I haven't pulled out in a while. I even have a video up here showcasing, it's been a little while, but showcasing how I created those and used art magic to create them, if that's something you want to create for yourself. But we are going to get right into it. Feel free to put your intuition cap on, feel free to really connect with the cards here, and let's see what sparks are on their way in for you. So group 3, what sparks are coming in for you? What is sparking into your life? Ooh, we got the 2 of Cups. That's really nice. Let's see what else. You also have the Knight of Pentacles. I was almost going to say materials. That's a different deck, but the Knight of Pentacles. And you also have the 7 of Cups. Interesting. So for those of you who might be looking for friendships or new communities, or looking to connect deeper and further with someone, whether that's on a romantic level, a platonic level, with a community, or with a family member, it doesn't really matter who you're connecting with. If you're looking to have a much deeper connection with someone, or to forge a new connection with someone, that is definitely coming forward with this spark. So it could be that someone is approaching you. It could be that someone is already in your life that you're really building a deeper connection with, going on dates with, going to events with, hanging out with more often, just putting more energy and time into a relationship with, is really coming forward as part of this spark. And it literally looks like a spark behind them. Like, look at the energy right behind them. It really does feel like very much sort of, even, I know it's probably like a romantic sunset, but it's kind of looking like a sunrise to me, which sunrise energy is all about new beginnings, new growth, new beginnings to forge these connections with. And so I really like that this is coming forward. And what I also like about this particular 2 of Cups is that they have these brooms in almost every single card, and the brooms represent movement, right? They represent moving forward, like riding a broom. But the brooms are set down. They're not focused on moving. They're really in the present moment. They're not trying to move or change anything, or change each other. It's very much a sense of mutual respect and a sense of understanding one another on a much deeper level, even if that means that you're understanding their flaws, understanding that they are flawed, and finding the beauty in their imperfections, as well as finding yours as well, and still sticking around, not moving away, and accepting them and finding compassion within them as well. So what's surrounding this spark, right? We've talked a lot about what the spark kind of is, but what's surrounding it is we have the Knight of Pentacles, which is showing up almost as like an offering to this card, like maybe something that you're offering to this friendship or this relationship, however it shows up in your life. But this Knight of Pentacles usually represents a very hardworking individual. It's someone who's putting a lot of hard work into a relationship, putting a lot of time, energy, and care into a relationship. But also it does represent to someone who is very dependable, loyal, honest, very, like they're not a wild card. The Knight of Pentacles is about someone who is very dependable, someone you can look to and know that they're going to be there, know that they're going to have your best interest at heart, know that they're going to put effort in to this relationship as well. And so it really feels like either you or both of you, or multiple of you if it's a community, there's a lot of hard work and energy being put towards this relationship right now, and that it's a main focus in their life or in your life. What's interesting as well is you also have the Seven of Cups, which can represent a bit more of a floaty fantasy energy to it. I always think of it as someone kind of got their head in the clouds. They're not able to make a decision. They're very indecisive and all over the place, which can happen, right? Especially when you're forging a new relationship. You're like, you can talk a million miles an hour. You can be sparking from one conversation to the next and over and here and over there. So it can be a really good and helpful thing, but it also can mean that you can get a little in your head. If you've ever had, like a crush on someone, sometimes you can build a whole fantasy about who you think they are and what they're like. And then that bubble can get popped quite easily when you see the reality of them, which is why I think it's really interesting that when I was talking about the Two of Cups, it really does feel like there's this mutual respect and understanding for the flaws and the not so pretty parts sometimes of ourselves and what we bring to the table when it comes to a relationship. And I really feel like that is showcasing in this Seven of Cups, in that maybe you or the other person is understanding that there's a lot of different pieces to another person and that you're both bringing different things to the table. And that can be a really helpful and important thing to acknowledge moving into a relationship with someone or into a community, and knowing that it can be a bit flawed, that it isn't going to be perfect, that it's not going to be the fantasy maybe that you have in your mind, but it can be better, especially when you move through that reality with more empathy and understanding. So let's go ahead and move to your creativity charm or card, and then we'll move to the charms. Tripping over my words today. Definitely hitting the last pile vibes. I always feel like if you guys choose pile 3, you always know that sometimes I can get a little ahead of myself. So we're going to be pulling some cards here and then we'll pull some charms. But what's interesting about this deck is it's very much an art magic deck, in that we're going to be looking into the more creative artsy side of things, in the traditional art kind of way, as well as the magic side of things. But you're welcome to abstract these and just look at them entirely from like keywords or other things that might be literally sparking things within the reading. So let's feel them out and see what comes forward. So goodness. You've got not magic coming forward with an owl. Interesting. Not magic, especially with relationships, represents an entanglement with someone. It represents feeling very secure, right? If you think of a knot to like tie off a boat or to keep something safe and protected and held. So knots are really a really strong one. Also like tying the knot with someone as well. Not that there necessarily has to have a marriage element to this, but just in general, a promise or a loyalty or a dependability that is coming forward with the not magic energy. So let's go ahead and read through it as well from the more magical side of things. You also have a little owl with wisdom. And it says here, not magic. Now is the time to make a decision. Forge a connection, walk your talk, and keep a promise to yourself. Strengthen relationships of all flavors and hone in on connections that support mutual bliss. A knot seals a spell. Act decisively and carry on confidently. So it is. So definitely is talking about relationships here. We've got strengthening relationships, that they come in different flavors, that you're forging a new connection. So there really is a lot showing up here with what I already talked about, with that kind of really knotting a relationship together, not in a way that feels entangled in a like literal tangled up way that feels a bit chaotic or sort of confusing. But although feelings can be confusing, so sometimes you have to unknot some of that confusion that might be coming in from that Seven of Cups that I was talking about earlier, where you can kind of have this disconnect between the fantasy and reality in your mind, and you've got to kind of unknot those to build a much stronger knot. If you want to use this in more of an art magic way, this can also be literally looking up into knot magic. There's lots of different spells that you can do with just simple knots and braids and all different kinds of weaving spells as well. You can do it with crochet, with knitting, with macrame and all sorts. So there's lots of different ways that you can use knots in your art magic on a more literal sense. Especially with that Knight of Pentacles showing up here, I feel like some of you are physically creating something to bring to the table when it comes to strengthening a relationship in your life. But let's go ahead and see what else is showing up here with some affirmations. And you might find that all of the affirmations that show up here are going to really relate to you, or you might just find that one of them is really good and you write it down in your planner. They could be smaller sparks that don't relate to the whole big picture. So we're going to see. So group 3 here. Oh my gosh, I'm not taking that last little bit, but I'll take the ones that came upright. But you got a lot here, so we're going to see what those all are coming forward. So you have growth has to begin somewhere. So even though you're at the beginning of a relationship, possibly with that fantasy feeling, it does have to begin somewhere. And of course, there's a reason why we biologically tend to grow these crushes. I mean, not everyone, but there is a tendency to grow crushes on people or on even friendship crushes, right? And things like that, where you're like, I just feel really drawn to this person, want to know them, want to get to know them, want to build a relationship with them. And that growth has to begin somewhere, even if it is in a fantasy kind of a landscape. And it also says, don't forget to play, which is showing up here on this card as well. So being playful with it, not trying to be too serious immediately. You have embrace your feelings. Yes, feelings are a huge part of relationships. So embracing your feelings, especially if you're literally doing knot magic, and making sure to really put all your feelings and energy into those spells. So making sure you're also in the right kind of headspace for that. You have a few different ones all falling on this one. You've got I am resilient showing up here. I think it's really interesting that it showed up here on the sort of splatter that we have down here, because this has a giant splatter here too. So it can also be that it's not going to be like easy peasy sailing, but there is a bit of resiliency in this, maybe from past relationships and the way that you're kind of confronting, or maybe confronting is not the right word, but how you're approaching this new relationship based off of how you've had past relationships. That could even come in with that seek to forgive and chilling out and maybe making sure that you don't. It's very easy to use our past relationships, especially negative relationship experiences, and sort of project them onto new people without giving them a chance. So there can be that forgiveness, or that kind of trying to chill yourself down, trying not to project, those past relationships coming forward. It does show let's try again, so it can be reconciliation that's happening, or rekindling a relationship, since it does say find the way to rekindle that fire inside you. So it could be rekindling a relationship that you haven't been nurturing for a while. And it also says breathe in a fresh new start. So this also can represent new relationships coming in. So it kind of can go either way for some of you, or for some of you maybe both. But like I said, you don't have to take all of them, but there might be different bits and pieces that are really grabbing your attention. Let's go ahead and finish off your reading with some charms, though, and see what comes forward with them. So let's pull some for you, group 3. Goodness, it is very, very rare that the first time I put my hand into the charms, that those are the charms. So let's go ahead and see what you got. So you have immediately what I think is really interesting on the wisdom of the owl here, they're holding that knot, right? And it feels more tangled, this specific one. And you got the X charm, which represents maybe an ex-family member, an ex-friend, and an ex partner in your life, or however you see it, or even a community that you no longer are maybe in connection with, or like I said, maybe you're rekindling something with that person. But it definitely feels like a very tangled situation that you're either untangling, like I said, maybe because you're not wanting to bring it forward into new relationships, or because it is literally that relationship that you're untangling or finding closure within, or trying to even rekindle. So it kind of depends on the direction in which you are already feeling. You have the number 1 charm showing up here by the 7 of Cups. So again, very much in your head. It's not necessarily the reality that's showing up here, because 1 represents like just you, whereas 2 would be a partnership. So this really is kind of just continuing to speak on that. And then you got 2 charms sort of almost looking head to head at each other, right between the X, with embrace your feelings showing up here with the mountain goat. So this usually represents a challenge or a hill you have to climb. So it could be that your feelings are something that are very difficult to navigate. They're also kind of pointing towards that seek to forgive energy. And then you also have here the horse charm or the knight charm in chess. So this usually represents, if you guys have ever been if you've ever played chess, it represents a piece that can really be kind of sneaky. Like all the other pieces kind of have to move only in specific directions. This one can hop over and kind of move in very interesting directions. So when I think of this one, it represents kind of having to move or sidestep something, or you're trying to move around something and get around something. So it can also be that maybe by untangling these feelings, you're able to get around that obstacle that is an ex or is a past experience, to be able to open up to another person, especially since it's showing up next to rekindling, trying again, and chilling out and seeking to forgive. So it is really showcasing to me that you're trying to almost get around this ex, or trying to move through those feelings and kind of find ways not to project them into a new experience or a new relationship in your life, to not try to repeat the past. So those are all of the cards and charms that I have here for you for your sparks on their way in. I really hope that this has been useful and helpful to you, and that you got something out of it. And if you did, definitely be sure to give this video a like, and let me know, as always, in the comments down below what you saw and how you felt about the reading. I'm always curious to hear your thoughts. Helps me to be a better reader, and I'm always curious to see your guys' perspectives. And if you're interested in more of these pick a card readings, I put out new readings every single Monday, and I also like to sprinkle in, some educational videos on charm casting or art magic that you might enjoy. So definitely feel free to subscribe if any or all of that kind of sparks your fancy. And if you're interested also in getting a private and personal reading that's very unique to you on any question, query, or situation that you've got going on, then definitely feel free to check out these snail mail readings that I do, or reach out to get more information on them, or I send a letter to you in the mail. It's typewritten and easy to read on a 1970s vintage typewriter, and I also wax seal them closed, so they're for your eyes only, on any question or query on your mind. And if you would like to see more information as well as helpful and honest reviews, then definitely feel free to check out my Instagram down below, or to look at the description for more information. Or as always, if you can't find everything, feel free to just email me and I'll send you all the stuff you need to get started. So with that all said, I'm going to go ahead and close off this reading. Thank you so much for being here with me today, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.